Hello, everyone. I'm back. Welcome. I am not Zach Hadorn. I guess I lost my individual imaging while I was gone on vacation. But I am Tyler Sage at Ring of Tyler on X/Twitter, as I still like to call it. Welcome in, everybody. Make sure I have the comments up here. It's me. I've been gone for a couple of shows. Was on vacation. I want to thank Zach for holding down the show. As I get my straggly beard here in the frame. Um, so yeah, great to be here. Great to be back. Yes, as Zach said here, hold on, Tyler still works here. Hopefully Zach said something while I was away that um, I was not suspended. I did not leave for creative differences or anything like that. I was literally just on vacation. And now Zach is sick tonight, as everyone seems to have the flu, etc. In this great nation of ours, or whatever. So welcome. Just me tonight, Tyler Sage. Again, not Zach Adorn. Yeah, but we're here to talk AEW Grand Slam, the Saturday show, Monday Night Raw last night, and like leading into Elimination Chamber, because that is coming up fast and furiously. So thank you, as always, for joining. It is cold as all get out where I am. Hopefully it's not as cold where you are, but it probably is, because everywhere seems to be cold right now. But thank you again for joining. Sorry, Zach was texting me. Yeah, so he's all good. But yeah, so let's start. Let's start with AEW Grand Slam. Happened this past Saturday. Was a free to watch on. I assume by Ring. I see Andrew in the chat here. I'll pop that up here. Obviously, your chats are well appreciated tonight, as they always are, but helps the conversation going. As some of you hardcore members remember, I used to do a Monday show where I previewed Raw, and it was all based on your guys' comments to make it good. So 10 degrees here in Texas. Good Lord for Zach there. But Andrew says, let's start with the Ring, or Ring Gate, as Tracy called it. Yeah, so like, I'll be honest with you guys, I got back like Sunday. I've watched the show and missed a lot of the conversation around it, right? Usually AEW uses an 18-foot ring, and this was a smaller ring, so the wrestlers couldn't get very much. I don't know. I couldn't tell a huge difference as someone who watches a lot of wrestling, and I assume that's why Andrew wanted to start with that with the laughing faces. But yeah, Zach's in Texas is 10 degrees. Well, I hope everything is safe for everybody there, as you hear the club above me. So I apologize for that noise if that comes through here. But so yeah, I don't really have much else to say about the ring besides it seemed fine to me. Maybe a little less Braun Breaker running of the ropes that we saw previously. Does that affect Kenny and Will Ospreay? I guess it's more about the distance, right, than the size of the ring per se. So I thought this match was really good. So let's get into it, right? First match, we had Kenny, we had Will Ospreay taking on Kyle Fletcher and Takeshita. So Takeshita, if I can speak correctly here. And what I thought was a really good match, right? Like, crowd super over for a lot of tonight of Saturday's show. Some good action. Fletcher and Ospreay obviously have incredible chemistry. The Takeshita Kenny match before Kenny was ill and away for a long time was one of those like breakout matches for a competitor. So I thought that continued to be the case here. Getting the win for Kenny and Will Ospreay makes sense in this capacity, with Ospreay giving up a big win to Fletcher in the past, also Kenny to Takeshita. So all that was good. I liked a lot of that, and it worked for me. It worked to open the show, because really, what are the stakes, right? It's a personal grudge. It's not for a title. It's is Will Ospreay going to be the world champion in the next 6 months? Is Kenny Omega going to be the world champion in the next 6 months? I don't know, right? But if you're going to have a baby face, it's probably one of those two, unless you go with Cope, as we'll talk about here in a couple of matches. But So let's see. Let's see what you guys think. We're past the cold talk, which is good. Andrew says the future can be very bright for AEW. Great match. Um, so yeah, and then the finisher should be the Hidden Angel. Yeah, that's a good. I like that call. Maybe should work commentary for somebody, Zach. But yeah, I mean, this show was good. And again, I've been like totally out of the loop on the wrestling ecosystem, but I would assume the show is pretty generally thumbs up, right? It's 5 matches over a period of time. It was a condensed show that didn't overstay its welcome, like a lot of big time AEW shows do, especially if they're pay-per-view things. And this match, leading the other stuff, perfect. It's exactly what I would be looking for as a fan. And I did look for as a fan. So yeah, that was good. Good opener, good showing for all 4 guys. Really good stuff. Second match, we had Mercedes Moné taking on Harley Cameron in a match that had no right to be any good, right? But had a lot of fun stuff there. Obviously, the hometown Cameron is helpful there. The crowd very disappointed. The puppet didn't get used the way they wanted it. So all that's fun. And, I think Harley Cameron's got, Chelsea Green potential, which is not a knock on her. But it's like, is there a role for someone like that in AEW currently that, men or women, right? There's not really a comedy heel character that has gotten over in a way, like whatever, in Elias, in Otis on the other side of that. But, I think that can be something that is super valuable for AEW. That, hey, if you have Harley Cameron once a week on either Collision, Dynamite, whatever, doing something funny that also irritates the fans. So, yeah. And as Zach says here, 43 matches in, Harley's better than she should be. Is that really? She's only had 43 matches, like, period? Because that's, like, mad impressive if that is the case. And, like, I've never thought she was, like, the worst worker in the world. I mean, I think she's better. You can see the raw talent in a lot of stuff. And if she's only worked 43 matches, she's better than a lot of performers in lots of companies that have had hundreds of matches. So that's illuminating, Zach, if that is in fact the case. So good use of her. 43 matches ever. Wow, that's crazy. So thank you for that information there, Zach. So so a rising star. What capacity, I don't know, but there's certainly something there, and I hope Tony takes advantage of that. Tony Khan, that is. So, the guys talking about the shot. Andrew saying that it's the same shot as Flair and Vince at the O2 Rumble. I'll have to see a screen grab or a TikTok or a reel to confirm that, but it sounds right. So that's pretty funny. You can tell if that was Tony setting that up, Tony Khan. Still a huge fan of wrestling and referencing some things there. So that would be funny if that was the case. Or if Mercedes, just a big fan. Obviously, that comes in the line when she started to become a huge fan. So maybe it's her idea there as well. So, but yeah, good match. 2 good matches to start. Then we had the Death Riders, Moxley and Claudio, taking on Cope and Jay White in a Brisbane brawl. Yeah, it'd be a ball. I think that'd be actually a more interesting match if they had to ball dance with each other. But totally fine, totally what you expect. I think the story here is Cope and the crowd singing his song for him as it ended, very much like Randy Orton in France when that was such a huge deal, a show of respect for a legend. So that's always nice when you get that. And I'm for audiences outside the United States just sticking the middle finger up at American audiences and saying, hey, you're spoiled. You get this all the time. You sit on your hands. We're going to enjoy the 1 or 2 times a year that we get to see this product and take advantage of it. So I do appreciate that as a wrestling fan to see that. So, the match itself, kind of what you expect, I guess, for Cope to. Here's the good thing about this. I certainly before this match, if I was to preview it, I'm sure Zach previewed it the same way. Again, I haven't seen anything, but I would certainly think Cope was going to pin Claudio, right? To then set up moving up the pyramid to beat Moxley and to have Cope choked out and have it called was it technical submission? Let me pull up my Wikipedia page here. Yes, technical submission. The fact that happened is an interesting, thread on this story of okay, is that to me the reverse psychology of wrestling is that gave Cope an actual opening to win this title off of Moxley, which I still think I wouldn't go with currently if I were to project what's going to happen here. But I guess why not? I think it's more why not is because I'd rather have Will Ospreay or Kenny Omega have that title and do some big stuff with it, or Okada. We'll talk about him soon. Those three seem like they need that. The company needs those guys in that spot more than Cope or Moxley at this point. So that's my only question mark on this booking. But you got to build Cope up in the next couple of weeks and make people excited for that match, and him come in, on the chase as a babyface makes total sense, right? So I get that as well. But typically in wrestling, you're going to have him beat the underling to then be like, okay, now he's moving up and it's one-on-one. Get some promos. Here we go. So a little nuanced take here for AEW, which I appreciate. Three E's, not that one. I guess that's EC3. So because it's the third. But and Eddie are in the chat. So hello, guys. E says that Moose shows up on NXT tonight, faces off with Obafemi. It's going to be a good match. Eddie says hi, everybody. So hello, Eddie and everyone else. Let's go to our fourth match. We had Kazuchika Okada taking on Buddy Matthews with hopefully an okay ankle as he rolled that, as that immediately started. But, happy to see Buddy get a big reaction in Australia. Feels like a guy who is you say, hey, there should be more for this guy. He's been in multiple companies and there's not more for him. It's tough. What do you put, putting the finger on its heart of why this guy is not, he's not a world champion, whatever, but it's hard. What is his zone, right? Because he's kind of Chad Gable. He's really Finn Balor, right? Let's say that. They're great matches, can be in main events with guys that are bigger stars than him, but are never at this point going to get to a much higher level. So it's interesting. I don't know why. I think the same thing for Finn. Obviously there was a moment for Finn, and then he got injured, and Vince was done with it. But even now, we'll talk about that, with the Raw discussion here in a couple minutes. But it'd be nice for them to get some wins occasionally. Obviously, Okada, you probably bigger plans. Kenny wins tonight. Okada wins tonight. Obviously, a path there for All In Texas. That is hopefully not going to be 10 degrees when that show happens. But yeah, match was really good. High level TV match to a pay-per-view match. Obviously, this is on TV, but all these matches had pay-per-view qualities. And for being injured, instantly, I think Buddy did a good job in this match. And not I'm never going to say he carried Okada, but Okada needs a good dance partner to get best Okada. And I thought this was pretty good for having not a huge build to get there. So very good. But our main event, and kind of why I wish this was a pay-per-view, because the women main eventing made sense here. I'm glad they did. Timeless Toni Storm taking on Mariah May. A match that was more intense, I would say, than the first time when Mariah beat Toni. More personal. Toni's not as much all character. It's she's done a good job hybrid, doing a hybrid of the Toni Storm and the Timeless gimmick to fuse into one being, right? I think that's obviously the story too, is that she's gotten past forgetting what happened, she remembers, and fusing those two personas together to make an even stronger character and kayfabe pro wrestling, right? So Zach loved the match. He says, felt like a fight. It did feel like a fight, and this is again, if you look at this feud from Mariah turning on Toni, and we're probably not done with it in the grand scheme of tracking this as a feud. It is one of those that, if you want to give an example for like long-term storytelling in AEW, this is a prime example of a good version of that. Characters are arcing, right? Mariah May went from good to, or friend to foe for Tony Storm. Like I say, good to bad. And Tony, losing the gimmick of timeless Tony Storm, getting it back, and the amnesia thing, fusing the two together. Good stuff. And I'm excited to see where it goes. I think obviously, if they're not building to Tony and Mercedes at all in Texas, then I think that's a huge mistake. And the only other match that is even on the table would be the third version of this, with like a ladder or, in a cage, what have you. But you can do that later, right? And if that's like the blood and guts, like I don't know if they can get enough friends to do that, but I'd be totally down if, Team Tony versus Team Mariah is the blood and guts match this year, which I know Zach will know off the top of his head. I think it's in May, is when that is usually. So, and I'm seeing E here in the chat. Ricky Saints, is that Moose's name in NXT? Is that what you're saying there, E? Just because I'm not watching it live. If you are, that's an interesting note. That or is it Ricky Starks as Ricky Saints? So Zach is asking in the chat here. We're getting some live content here. But Ricky Stark's new name is Ricky Saints. And he's in NXT. Interesting. I mean, he's from New Orleans and Houston. Doesn't he claim a couple cities, or Austin and New Orleans? So he likes the Saints. So he's Ricky Saints. I don't know. We'll talk about that. Let's let that breathe, and we'll let Zach and I talk about that in a couple of days here. But so yeah, I thought all 5 matches were good in their own way. The weakest being the tag match in the middle with the world champion, which is not like ideal, but I think that proves that the company's ready to move forward. All in really needs to be WrestleMania for AEW, and Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada for a title or not is one of those matches. If that's not for the title, whatever the title match is, and Tony and Mercedes, like those are 3 huge matches for AEW, and something they should really be building to. And it seems like they are, which is good and positive. And I'm excited to watch Dynamite tomorrow to see the follow up from this, and all that, like where these characters are going, etc. So on our way to Revolution, which should be a good show as well. So my big picture thoughts on Grand Slam, thumbs up. So yeah, I'm going to pop that up, Andrew, because I agree. Okada, Omega to unify the useless titles. Yes, we can eliminate some titles, unify them, put them in the belt, remember them fondly, move on. Yes, book it for the sickos. I agree. So let's move on to Raw. Raw last night, again, totally fine show. Let me roll up because I forget the order of things. We opened with Sami Zayn in his promo with Adam Pearce that felt like, I don't know, like, I'm curious what you guys thought of the opening promo here, because I thought it worked, but it was a little like John Cena 2012-ish to me, of like the commissioner coming out and saying like, oh, we'll never allow this. We've never allowed essentially a no DQ match, an unsanctioned match. And he's like, he can do this to you, this to you, this to you, right? Really long and drawn out, so the audience wants it to happen. Sammy gets up to Pierce and does the same thing, like, well, if I'm in that, I can do XYZ to Kevin Owens. So, totally fine. It just felt like the setup for the June pay-per-view for John Cena to take on the Big Show or something like that, right? So I like that this is happening at Chamber, because you have this, you have the 2 Chamber matches, and then probably a tag match, either men or women's, or one other thing, right? You can get away with probably 5. Depends how long these Elimination Chamber matches are. But, this is the big, you don't have, Gunther or Cody defending on this show. So this being on this spot as the big singles match makes a ton of sense, being in the middle of the show, having the chambers bookend it, and this is the middle of that sandwich. Love that as a strategy for the show coming up in a little less than a week on March 1st in beautiful Toronto, Ontario. So that was fine, and got you ready to go. I just wonder where they go from there, right? Like one wins, one loses, and then they continue it on to WrestleMania, I would presume, but we'll see. If there's any like in between thing, I watched it. I just can't remember all these in between things. We had AJ Styles taking on Dominic Mysterio. Before that, I remember Dominic was talking in the Judgment Day Clubhouse about not wanting to add another member to Liv. Liv is obviously trying to get him that way, so we'll see what happens there. But AJ and Dom come out. The commentators are pushing heavily the Braun Breaker thing about wanting to build a retirement home for 47-year-old professional wrestlers. I think Punk is 48, 46. Someone look that up for me, but maybe Punk's next if he's building that place. Add a wing for those guys too. I kid. But it was more a setup for Breaker to come out, have him and AJ get into it, and maybe that's your other match on Elimination Chamber is to do AJ and Braun, or it's that's like a main event of Raw or on a pay-per-view. I don't know what's more valuable, honestly, if you're a professional wrestler. Probably the pay-per-view slot because there's so few of them, but it feels like that could be either for me. But it was totally fine, and like it's weird that Dom is like totally just a job guy now. I mean, everybody in Judgment Day is a job guy, so I wonder when they because I don't know if this is like a year ago. We're probably talking about Dom like as one of the best characters in the company, entertaining, gets a lot of heat. And that's just like not the case these days. Post obviously Rhea taking out Liv, so I just wonder what the path forward is intermediately here for Dom, and like long term. Like, was that his ceiling as a character, or do they believe in him enough to, make him Miz 2.0 and win a couple of world titles really underhandedly? Get a new girl who defends him and helps him win, etc. So I'm curious to see where they go with him long term. But it seems like for the intermediate, he's while Gable's out, he's that like mid card jobber guy for everybody, for all the baby faces. So it is what it is on that. Then we had Ivy Nile backstage with American Alpha or Alpha Academy, sorry, and talking about wanting to prove it to Gable that they can do something while he's gone. And Zach, I knew you would say that was his ceiling, so I'm gonna pop that up for you because I knew that would be the case for you. But thank you for getting your opinion out there. Always appreciate it. Then Dakota Kai came up, said she's gonna earn her chance to take on Lyra Valkyria again. And then we got to that match. Lyra Valkyria is out, sitting ringside next to the commentators, but not calling the match, which was totally pointless in my opinion. But we'll get to that. And we had Dakota taking on Ivy Nile, same sort of match. Ivy's was on American Titans or whatever that show's called. So she's big and strong and scary and bad. And they had a match that was okay. Totally fine. It's right. Like Dakota reminds me of Seth Rollins, not in work rate, but in like when he came back from the second knee injury, and that was basically like his character was selling people working his knee like crazy forever. Feels like Dakota's stuck in that boat. That's like fine, but American Titans. Isn't that what that show was called that she was on, Zach? It was like American Gladiators, but like the knockoff version of it because they didn't have the rights to the name, and she was like a gladiator in that, something like that. But and that was Zach asking American Titans for the podcast listeners. Yeah, it had a different name. They said it on the broadcast last night. It was not Gladiators, but we're spending too much time on this, so I apologize for bringing it up. But yeah, Dakota Kai wins. kind of kayfabe, like softly, I would say. Like Ivy Nile worked her pretty much the whole time, and then she gets the win. Then Valkyria stands up. And, Titan Games. Yes, there you go. So I mixed American Gladiators and Titan Games. So thank you for all the podcast listeners that were very worried that they had to stop and Google what this was. Titan Games is what Ivy Nile was on. But yeah, then Lyra Valkyria, my favorite name, is stands up, and we're gonna have a match between the two. So when is that? Who knows? Not Elimination Chamber, that's for sure. That's a TV title. So yeah. Then after that we had the best segment of the night. Non-match, best non-match thing of the night. We had Gunther on the concourse where Jay was 2 weeks ago, and came down just like Jay does. Tried to get everyone to yeet. People were booing him. He's like telling kids to move out of the way. He's like, good stuff. Like, whoever's idea this was a very fun wrinkle on a feud that, is like a 5 out of 10 for me right now. We have plenty of time, but it's like a good, like, hey, we got a week to kill. What are we going to do? They're both here. So, Gunther going down there, he's accosting Cole and Pat McAfee and all that stuff. And then finally, Jay comes for the save, gets through the refs that are blocking him, brawls with Gunther, all that good stuff. So this is fun. Does it matter in the long run? But, probably not. But like in the video package, I think they'll use some of this stuff with like Jay having his people yeet, and then Gunther trying to get people to yeet, and they're not. It's yeet, no yeet, obviously, in front of your eyes. But, then the whole crowd going along with Jay. Great image, right? If you turn that TV on, you think Jay's the biggest star on the show. And he might be. Probably besides Rollins on tonight's show. It was certainly Jey Uso, which is a reason to put him in this spot, right? So then we had Penta taking on Pete Dunne, which was cool. Another Penta match. But, it was totally fine. Nothing unreasonable about it. But, it's like, what is the course here? We've got Braun set up with AJ right now. Is Penta the next guy? Because, like, that's what I think the path he'd be on here is. It depends what the timeline is for Rey Fenix to come in. If it's May, then you continue this. But, yes, Penta won, Zach. And, still a pretty okay match, all things considered. I just think that, the Penta that that is in WWE currently, has been told to, downshift a couple. And we've talked about that a lot. So there's no real change there. And Pete Dunne is fine, but not the best opponent. I mean, he's a good opponent if you want to, slow down a guy like Penta and make him work a WWE style. But yeah, I mean, he is a big star on the show. So I have to wonder, like, he's kind of taken, like, is it him and Dom? Do we do that to get him a big win against? Like, he's got to step up a little bit past the Pete's, God, who did he beat the first week? Gable and someone in between. So that's there. Then we had the New Day cut a promo, heel promo, that got them involved with LWO. So they're going to have that match, and then probably eventually lead to a match between New Day and Mysterio and Dragon Lee. So that should be fun. That might be it. That's what I'm saying. Like, maybe that's the pay-per-view match. If you can do, like, next week, you do New Day taking out LWO, and then you can set up Rey, Dragon Lee, New Day. That'd probably be a better tag team match than DIY and Motor City was on the last pay-per-view. So, almost there, guys. You can hear my voice is starting to give on 30 minutes straight of talking, but I appreciate you sticking around. Then we had our main event. We had Seth Rollins taking on Finn Balor for the final spot in the Elimination Chamber. And first and foremost, like, I know they had Roman Reigns sell the injury, the stomp at the Rumble. But man, I cannot believe Roman Reigns is not in this Elimination Chamber match. And that as of now, or any way I can see it, there's no way that he's in a title match at WrestleMania. Seems crazy to me. But here we are. So, you had Rollins and Finn. I think they've fought 11 times. Did they show the record? Because I think it's 10-1 for Seth. Obviously, Finn won the first one, where the Demon won the inaugural Universal Championship, which is now part of Cody's belt lineage, if you would like to know. And, got injured, all that stuff. Great match. But, yeah, this match itself, I mean, these guys have great chemistry. And it's one of those things like I was talking about with, who was I talking? Oh, Buddy Matthews, right? And Finn Balor. Like, great matches. It's like, but, they're never going to win when they're in a match like this. And at some point, you got to pull the trigger and surprise the audience and do it. And yeah, right here, Seth, not the place to do it. Yeah, not against Okada on Saturday. It's not the time to do it. But there's stuff in between where Finn loses a lot in spots where he really could win, right? So that's the only downside here is like just the underutilization of Finn. And for Triple H too, it's like he's a Finn guy, he's a DIY guy, and he's not able to get those guys in good stuff while he's in charge. So that's an interesting thing that obviously they were elite in NXT under Triple H's tutelage. So interesting to see that. But yeah, Seth Rollins wins. As Andrew says here, I'm going to pop that up. Had the botched ref count, which is becoming a problem, certainly. I think the Roxanne, I didn't talk about the Roxanne match either. We'll talk about that here in a second, just to make sure I complete Raw for everybody. Because that was a forever count too on Roxanne's headfall. Transition to the finish was fantastic. Yeah, I mean, like, but yeah, I mean, like, if I'm pick two random Raw guys to have like a good main event in February, like it's these two, and they're going to deliver, and they did. So that is what it is. Let's go back. Final spot in the women's chamber match. We had Raquel taking on Roxanne Perez. And yeah, this is more about, what Bianca and Naomi were there because there's a video of Liv Morgan and Raquel when Jade got hurt. So obviously Bianca and Naomi came out and distracted both Liv and Raquel, and Roxy hit her destroyer move and got the pinfall, a long 3 count for what it took to do the 1, 2, 3. But yeah, she won, and she's got the final spots. So her and Seth Rollins are in the final spots of their respective Elimination Chamber matches. Predictions on that, as was requested earlier up top. Obviously, Zach and I are going to tackle that a lot next week. We'll get to that, Andrew. I think it's a good take there. I'm excited if that is the case. But, it's hard to not see CM Punk or John Cena winning that. I guess, my gut would be is that take that initial reporting as like the basis that it's John Cena wins taking on Cody, and hope that that's good enough for a Sunday main event of WrestleMania. I don't know. But that Roman is involved in this in some way, shape, or form, and he screws over Punk and Rollins, and that gets you to some sort of triple threat on Saturday night's main event of WrestleMania that gets you, maybe the winner of that gets into the match with Cena and Cody, which Roman would probably be the winner. But, Punk could also win that as well. Just to continue the they won't they? This would be my guess on that. The women's, I don't know. I got to look at it. I don't even know who's in it off the top of my head. I know it's Bianca, Naomi, Bayley, Liv, Roxanne. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe do Bayley and Tiffany. I don't know. But we'll see what happens. And the men's one, I think, has more interesting stuff. But the women's is like, I don't know. Just because, I don't know. There's any good stories with any combination of the women's champions right now. Like, it's Rhea and whoever is is like a plus story, and then the Tiffany match is definitely like the third match on Sunday, no matter who it is, Charlotte or whoever wins this. So it is what it is. Yeah, I mean Roxanne would be great. And Roxanne and Tiffany is like the new blood match. They can really, blow it out and try and outdo Rhea and Charlotte. I think that'd be a fun story, but I don't know if they're ready to just pull the trigger immediately on Roxanne and give her a WrestleMania title shot out the gate. But she got a lot out the gate in NXT. So as Andrew said, he was hoping that Bianca. Let me find this chat here. That it was Bianca that injured Jade, and we're about to get a heel turn. That would certainly make her character way more interesting and feel like another person who's in line with Rhea, Tiffany, Roxanne, Charlotte, Bailey, like top tier women, right? You need 6 or so. And it's felt for a long time that there's not Liv, obviously, in there. So getting her in that spot again, out of the tag team division, as a singles heel, could work tremendously, I think. And just like another development here, she's been a babyface for a long time, and it's time for a change there. So that was my review of both Raw and Grand Slam. Zach and I will be back Thursday at our normal time, 3 p.m. Eastern time. That's what Zach tells me, so hopefully he's okay by then. But we'll definitely be talking a lot about Dynamite and any thoughts he had on Raw as well. So until then, guys, thank you for joining me. It's good to be back, and I will see you all later.